resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Well, hello, my next level friend. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Artist Next Level podcast. This is a special edition episode in which I am interviewing artists from around the world as they are stuck at home during the coronavirus lockdown. Today, I'm very excited to have with me Elise Wagner, who is joining us all the way from Portland. We're going to talk about, again, how she's adjusting her art career to the new dynamics of the world that we are right now. Well, my friends, super happy to be back here. And today, super happy, like times 2 or 3 times 4, because I have with me Elise Wagner and a lot of the artists that I have been talking with, from around the world in this series of Artists in Lockdown, now over 30 artists already, having artists that I have met online, but I have never met in person. But today I'm super happy because I met Elise in person. Well, we first met online through the social media and through the Next Level Academy and other things, but also we had an opportunity to meet each other in New York recently during the Armory show. You were there, we were there. We had a nice, breakfast also with a number of many other.
Sergio.
Yeah, we had
Carnegie Diner. I mean, come on, that was fantastic.
That was super cool. So that, feel like I know you a lot better, Elise, because of those few moments that we all, as a group, we had in New York. And it's funny because, well, not even funny, but it was just interesting that, when we had that breakfast, part of the conversation that we had that day is like all the news that were happening already about the pandemic and things were about to close. And we're like, we're in New York, we're in the middle of a big crowd, right? We're still going to see shows that day and all that thing. But as soon as we all kind of got back, things began to close. And actually, you actually did a little bit more travel. And, as things were closing for you as well, maybe let's pick up from there.
Yeah.
Because that you were caught in the middle of your travel.
Yeah, it was quite devastating, actually, because I also have memories of 9/11 that are very similar, where I flew out of Newark Airport from Vermont Studio Center from 5 weeks back east on September 10th. So it was sort of like another thing that happened. But yeah, I was there until the 10th, and then they started closing theaters right when I drove out of there. And I was with my friend Karen, and we had this whole plan of going to NASA Goddard in Maryland, which we did. And I had arranged with someone in the heliophysics department to get a tour of their media department, because I'm a big fan of their Instagram. And then we were going to go to the National Radio and Astronomy Museum in West Virginia. So everything got canceled.
Yeah.
As we drove, everything got more and more canceled. And then I ended up in quarantine in West Virginia at my friend's house. And then I came home on a less than half full plane. And I actually flew to New York on a less than half full plane from Portland as well.
Yeah, I remember following, all that journey, from your social media, and we were in touch also throughout that time. Yeah. So, how much the world has changed since that breakfast that we had until now, right? And
incredible.
Something that we have been talking about even before this, the importance of social media. I know you've been very active with social media yourself and doing things. So tell me a little bit about, as you look at your career, how this whole dynamic has also made some changes, and what kind of adjustments have you done as an artist as a result of?
I pretty much just, after the shock of it, I mean, it's still pretty shocking. I still can't really look at my pictures from New York or from Italy, for that matter. And it caused me to have to really examine what's important and what I can bring into the world. And it also caused me to question, what is this all about? Why am I making art? What is the meaning of this? So I had a lot of back and forth, and I've had I go through bouts of motivation and non-motivation. But it's really caused me to pivot my entire business model pretty much. things have changed so much in the gallery world now as a
Mm-hmm.
result, and that's greatly impacted me and how
Mm-hmm.
I have income, as well as I teach and I go to places to teach. I travel to teach, and I also have people who travel to me to teach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the impact of the travel industry has been devastating. I am also an Airbnb host. All of my reservations were canceled.
Right.
I had this wonderful thing going where my students would come and sign up for my class and they would stay at my Airbnb.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's just a big hole there. So I've been spending the past few weeks trying to figure out how to, kind of shooting from the hip, how to go about doing this. And so I started teaching. I had my first class on Zoom recently. And I'm not
Very
sure if
cool.
I'll do it indefinitely,
Mm-hmm.
but it's definitely it's providing for me a way to connect, and I know that people are a captive audience right now for their creativity, maybe doing things that they hadn't gotten to or that they wanted to do. I know I'm certainly doing that too.
Yeah.
So that's I've kind of adapted that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had to for survival. There's really no choice in the matter. I had to do this, and whether I wanted to or not.
Right.
So,
and one of the things, actually, I remember that we had a conversation as you were setting up your online class, and figuring out what method to use and how to do it, and all the different things. What has you found to be, one of the biggest obstacles to overcome when transferring something that you normally do on a one-on-one or with a group in person versus, transitioning into a virtual space where maybe your students may not have all the tools or the lighting, all the things that normally they would have access to in your studio?
Well, the way I did it was I just kind of put in the description that, you use this as a tool, take notes. You can get information and resources from me, and then you'll have a recording of the class for a future date, or you can learn right along with me. But I pretty much laid it out there. Here's what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to demonstrate and do the printmaking for you, or encaustic painting, which I did yesterday, which was very fun. And I just lay it out that way, but it was challenging at first. I thought, oh, am I going to have a whole lesson plan? And then I did a workshop, and I looked at all of these different platforms that people teach on, and I felt that was way too overwhelming for me. And I have a studio practice as an artist. I don't want to get headlong involved with a very big process of being on a platform and having this be lesson plans and video management and stage management, and and I'm just me, so I had to be realistic and do something that was very accessible for me to do, and also that allowed people to do it affordably and was accessible for them too.
Right. And I think it creates also a platform where, as we go back, hopefully soon, to a more normal or a way in which we can start accepting people in our studios, in our galleries and things like that, where you can always have that as a back burner for, any additional thing, and or even as a follow-up to a class that you give. Let's say you can have like the full experience, right? The in-person, but then, okay, maybe 3 months from now, let's do a Zoom call, everybody, to see how you're doing, as you're back in. So it gives you that now, that an added tool that now you have at your disposal, because we went through this and we all learn new things, that now, it becomes an add-on to something that maybe you may be doing, especially when you travel. I know you do some courses in Mexico and things like that, where maybe a follow-up 2 months later with everybody might be kind of fun.
Right, exactly. And it's kind of a nice way to connect and have a really solid community of students, which I do. I've been doing it for so long that I do have the access to that, and now I've learned different ways to do that. And in fact, I was getting to a point in my career, in my life, where I didn't really want to have studio workshops anymore. It was becoming to be a situation because I only have so much space.
Yeah.
And even though everything is on wheels and totally convertible in the studio, it still wears and tears on me because I have to do the breakdown, setup.
Right,
I was getting very tired of that. So it's almost like what I was very much resisting all along became what I had to do. And I no longer had any excuses. It takes a pandemic, like I was saying, to
I know, yeah. It
get
would
to
take,
that point,
it takes
Yeah.
something drastic sometimes to make us stop and think.
Sometimes
Yeah. No,
I think our inner resistance can be so intense, and we have to just get beyond that. And being part of the academy has been just really helpful for me to have that community. And I'm not always plugged in 24/7 or anything, but there's always something in there for everyone. And then you get this sense of community, and that you're not alone, and that you're doing this, and certain issues come up, and there's something that you can share or communicate about. So,
and I think, and that kind of connects with something that you said much earlier, this idea that, the reality is that some days are better than others. Some days, you wake up and you're like, I'm going to win today. I'm going to go in the studio. I'm going to make the work. And some other days, like, it's hard, right? You just can't get to it. And it happens, and sometimes before pandemic, but now because of where we're going, and when you realize the situation and the lack of travel, the lack of many things, the financial situation, it causes a lot of stress that it follows us into the studio, because we're all human beings,
Yes. And initially, getting back from my trip, the city closed, and then it was all about funding. How do I find funding? So I put my, extensive grant writing experience to work, and applied for several grants, and got a few of them. And then it's just hard to go from that, and then website mastering, and putting creation of classes online, writing grants, and then do an about face and say, now I'm going to just paint.
Right.
So sometimes it's very hard for me to make that shift from the digital to the analog, to the actual doing.
Excellent. And let's talk about, before we kind of wrap up the conversation, let's talk about also this idea that a lot of times I hear artists who say, well, nobody's buying right now. Right? The collectors are not buying. And that is not true. People are actually buying. And I think that has been your experience as well. Yeah. As you're moving online and doing a lot of things online, that people are actually buying. Can you tell us a little bit about, how you have seen the collectors move and work in that sense?
Yes. I think that it's really important that you have a variety of price points with your work, for one thing. And for another, it's really good to consider that when you think about how the travel industry has been devastated, it's been devastated greatly by people who are planning very wonderful exotic vacations and all kinds of things. So if they're going to be in their environment and in their house, they want to have something nice to look at. And maybe they've always wanted one of my pieces, and maybe they haven't been able to, afford it or whatever. And now things have aligned in a certain way, and I have some things that are under $100, my impressions of Italy, and I have some things that are, they're under 500, and then they're under 1,000. And if you segment your pricing out in such a way, then you can have these nice little small, very easy to ship pieces on there to offer people. Right. And so I've just been thrilled that has been happening.
Very cool. Yeah, absolutely. And, for some of our friends also, even just doing the artist support pledge might be a great option for many of the friends who may be watching too, as a way to get the word out and things. But yeah, don't lose faith, my friends. If you've been posting out and you say, it doesn't work, nobody's buying, just keep at it, keep showing up. I think that is
I've been actively trying to sell my small works online for 2 years.
Yeah.
And I started an Instagram for it called Wagneragram, and then there's my Elise Wagner studio. And it's been slow going. So yeah, don't give up, because I've had those moments where I'm like, what? Oh my God, nobody cares. Nobody sees it, and it's because it's just you, and you're putting it out there from wherever you are. And it's the whole globe is what you have to remember. And not everyone's going to see it, but in the moment, that just takes the right moment and the right person in the right mood. And that's all, it's like that game,
Super. Well, Elise, thank you so much. You've been so kind to share, what you have been doing, how you've been adapting. I think will be inspiring for many artists watching right now from all around the world. So where can our friends find you, Elise, on social media, and also what's your website?
I am on Instagram at Elise Wagner Studio, and I am EliseWagner.com is my website. And I also have a Facebook page that's just my name, Elise Wagner. So Sergio, thank you so much for everything that you're doing to bring together such a wonderful global community of artists. This is really just incredible.
Thank you,
I'm really happy to be part of it.
Thank you so much. And thanks to our friends. We will see you in the next episode. Artists in Lockdown, Breakfast with Sergio. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.